Rollout, it indicates Americans are really nervous about the possibility of another terrorist attack on U.S. soil, following, of course, the Paris and San Bernardino attacks. According to the CNN ORC poll, 18% of Americans think the U.S. is winning the war on terror, but 40% think the terrorists are winning, and the other 40% think neither side is winning. We should keep in mind this poll was taken before Iraqi security forces succeeded in taking Ramadi, a key city in Iraq, over the weekend. It had been under ISIS control since May. Now it appears terrorists, they're nervous too. In a new message, ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi gives a morale-boosting speech to followers. In it, he warns of difficult times ahead, saying, quote, the whole world is united against them. He also talks of general war against the West, Russia, and their Arab allies. It's important to note that CNN cannot independently verify the authenticity of the 24-minute message, but it seems to follow the standard ISIS message protocol. So let's talk all about this. Joining me now, a former member of the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, Steve Rogers. Steve, it's good to see you. The take-back of Ramadi, a major Iraqi city, being deemed a victory for the West. Now we hear this morale-boosting message from Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Have their forces been weakened?
Well, apparently they have, and we could thank the Russians, we could thank the Germans, and we could thank the French. And of course, we do have special operation forces in there. But this should have been done a long, long time ago. You talked about a division with regard to the American people and how they feel about this war. The president should have done this a long time ago, taken the lead and did strategic bombing. He did not. But you know what? Thank God it's happening now.
All right, Steve, so you say this, quote, this should have been done a long time ago. You're talking about the U.S. President Barack Obama, taking the lead in combating ISIS overseas in the Middle East. Are you also talking about the coalition forces that are working together against ISIS? Do you think this is a path to success for us?
Well, it's a path to success, but, you know, the president says he has 65 nations involved in this coalition force. I can only name 4. The fact of the matter is that what we are seeing is that when the United States does not take the lead, especially in regard to this terrorist organization, we end up losing cities, we end up losing our defenses here in the homeland, and we end up eventually in big, big trouble. So when I say this should have been done a long time ago, he should have come out and clearly stated we're at war. He has never done that, even to this day. But I guess and believe now that the pressure from the American people was a lot for him to bear. And now, you know what, I'm glad he's taking significant action at the moment. But let's see where this is going to lead.
You know, Steve, a lot of Americans seem to be unsure as to what needs to be done. People are split. They're right down the middle on whether to send in ground troops or not. Either way, can an organization like ISIS, with so many splinter groups, be completely defeated? We've been fighting al-Qaeda for many years now, and they don't seem to be going away.
Well, I believe they can be defeated. The reason why the American people are very reluctant to get involved in this war is that there's no clear strategy. What we needed to do from the beginning is launch with, I believe, overwhelming strategic bombing of ISIS headquarters, of their command and control centers, of their supply lines. We didn't do that. We're running into another problem. Look, we could go in. We could certainly send ground troops in, which I don't think is necessary. I believe Saudi Arabia, Turkey, the states around the Mideast should send those ground troops in while we do the bombing. But the big problem we're going to face may not necessarily be ISIS. It's going to be the Russians. They are now in the Mideast. We kept them out for 50 years. Well, they're in there, and they're in there to stay. So we've got multiple issues. And you know, I've offered this issue. So we go in with U.S. ground troops, and we do defeat ISIS. What are we going to do when we come face-to-face with Russian ground troops? Multiple issues there.
Quickly, Steve, at the end of the day, New Year's Eve, right around the corner, a lot of Americans not necessarily confident that the American government can keep them safe here at home. What does the government need to do in order to make Americans feel safer here?
Well, I believe we are safe. I believe, and I've said this over and over again, because of the work of the FBI, the CIA, and our military intelligence agencies, as well as local law enforcement, we have not had a catastrophic attack. We had a few this year, but I believe that we're in good hands. What we have to do is go to the American people. Our best intelligence gathering sources are the American people. You see something, say something. You might prevent.
Nervous about the possibility of another terrorist attack on U.S. soil following, of course, the Paris and San Bernardino attacks. Now, according to the CNN ORC poll, only 18% of Americans think the U.S. is winning the war on terror. 40% think the terrorists are winning. Another 40% don't think anybody's winning. Now, we should keep in mind this poll was taken before Iraqi security forces succeeded in taking Ramadi, a key city in Iraq, over the weekend. It had been under ISIS control since May. It appears the terrorists may be a little nervous as well. In a new message, ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi gives a morale-boosting speech to followers. In it, he warns of difficult times ahead, saying the whole world is united against them. He also talks of general war against the West, Russia, and their Arab allies. Now, it's important to note that CNN cannot independently verify the authenticity of the 24-minute message, but it seems to follow the standard ISIS message protocol. Joining us to talk about all this, Steve Rogers, former member of the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force. All right, Steve. So Ramadi, no longer in ISIS control. You get this believed to be speech to try and boost morale. Is ISIS reeling or what?
Well, yes, they are. There's no question in my mind that what we're doing now is the strategic bombing that is supporting the ground forces, the Iraqi ground forces. So that is very key. And for ISIS to come out and send messages that, look, they've got a long, hard road ahead, clearly indicates that maybe right now we do have them on the run.
Gotcha. All right. Some other numbers from this poll. 74% of Americans dissatisfied with the way the war on terrorism is going. And another one, 51% of Americans are confident that the government can protect the United States from another terrorist attack. Just 51%, that down a little bit. What more does the government need to do, Steve, or are people just fearful?
Well, I think what we have to do, meaning the government, has to come out and make it very clear to the American people and to our enemies that we're at war. Look, to the president's credit, one thing he's done that I believe most Americans agree with, he hasn't committed a massive amount of ground forces because there isn't a strategy yet to deal with them. Perhaps through air power, it seems to be working right now, that'll re-engage the American people and build a little bit more confidence in them. Now, let's get to the homeland. There's no question in my mind that the FBI, the CIA, and military intelligence agencies have done a real good job. We have not had a catastrophic attack in this country since 9/11. Yes, we've had a few attacks, but nothing on that scale, and I don't think we're going to see that.
All right. You are a local police guy, right? Nutley, New Jersey. We know that. Our local police forces, this wasn't part of the poll, by the way, are local police forces more equipped, or do they need more help to try and help fight homegrown ISIS followers?
Well, that's something that I've been talking about for months. The Department of Homeland Security must send funding and training to local police departments to train local cops on how to detect and how to gather intelligence information. The federal government can't do this alone. They need people on the ground. We talk about boots on the ground in the Mideast. We need boots on the ground here. We have them here. That's our local cops. They need the tactical equipment. They need the training. They need from the federal government the resources that they can utilize to collect intelligence. And when you talk about that too, Mike, you're talking about your greatest intelligence asset in this country is the American people. We've been saying, see something, say something. Well, guess who they're going to say it to? The local police. That cop needs to know what to do with that information. Gotcha.
Hey, last one real quick. You touched on it a moment ago about whether or not to send troops. We just showed a part of that poll, split right down the middle, basically, whether or not to send ground troops. Your take on that, Steve?
I don't believe we should send any more American boys or women overseas in a fight. We're not going to win this fight on the ground over there. We haven't in Afghanistan. We haven't ever won a battle like this. Use the air power and get Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and those states, get their ground troops. Let them shed a little blood. I think when they take ownership of this, there's going to be a big change.
All right. Steve, thanks again. Appreciate your time. As always, Steve Rogers, former member of the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force. Also, this